Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read. A lot. Today I'm going to do the Books and Bakes tag, and I was tagged to do this by Stacy from Grey Lioness Reads. Essentially, this book tag is based on baked goods, and so all of the prompts are a different baked good, and each prompt has something different to go with that particular baked good. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first one is Cupcakes. And this one is to name a collection of short stories, anthologies, or poems where you couldn't just read one section and you had to go back for another. For this one, I chose Treading the Uneven Road by L.M. Brown, which I'll show right here. This one is a collection of short stories, and they all tie together, and they're all set in Ireland. I read this book and reviewed it on my blog. I actually really enjoyed it. The full review is on the blog, but essentially, I just really enjoyed that at the beginning of the book, you don't really know what you're getting into, and all the short stories have kind of like chilling ends to them, and they're not what you expect. And I really enjoyed that because I thought I was just going into a book with some short stories that are light and fluffy about different people and families in Ireland, but I was very impressed with how it turned out, and I really liked that. So yeah, I definitely had to go back for more. I couldn't just read one of these short stories, I had to read all of them. Next up is Lemon Pound Cake, and this is a book that is 400 pages or more that you consider a comfort read and a classic. Now, if any of you know me, this will be very easy for you to guess, but for those of you that don't know me, it is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is considered a classic for me because I just really love this book, and this book, it helped spark my love for reading again. I read it in college based off a recommendation from a friend, and I'm so glad that he did recommend this to me because once I picked it up, I could not put this book down and I just flew through it. I remember sitting on the couch and not wanting to get up until I had finished the book. I'm pretty sure I read this whole book in a day and a half, so yes, I did eventually get off that couch, but I jumped right back into it as soon as I could. This is my all-time favorite book, and I will always be super excited when I find out that other people are reading this book because I'll just want to talk to them about it. Next up, we have Red Velvet Cake, and this is to name a book that you thought was one thing but ended up being something completely different. And for me, this one is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. This book ended up being completely different for me because going into it, I hadn't read the back of the book. I actually received this as a gift, and I thought that this was the book that... there's another movie called Before I Wake, and that's what I thought this book was when I was starting to read it, not realizing that it's a totally different thing. So I was very surprised when I got through this book, and I was like, oh, that's not what I thought this was going to be. And then I found out that the other thing was Before I Wake, and it was a movie on TV, so I watched it, and it was very, very different. So yeah, this book was just a surprise because I didn't take the time to read the back of it and figure out that it was not what I thought it was. That being said, this is a really good thriller book, and I strongly recommend this. Then we got some chocolate chip cookie dough, and this is to name a book or book series that you can read over and over again even though it's bad for you. And I wouldn't say it's bad for me because reading is still reading and I enjoy it, so I would never consider reading bad for me. But I chose the Hunger Games series for this one because I could read this series over and over again and I would still love it no matter what. And it helps that there's movie adaptations too, so now I tie the two together, and I picture those actors when I'm reading the characters of this book. But there's just nothing about this series that I don't really like. I just love it, and I feel like I could just continually keep coming back to it and enjoy it just as much. Then we have Apple Pie a la Mode, which is to name a book that was really good but could have been better with a little bit of ice cream. For this, I chose Still Alice by Lisa Genova. This was a really, really good book, and it's about a woman that gets early onset Alzheimer's and her transition from being non-Alzheimer's to having Alzheimer's. And it was just it was such a powerful read. I really, really enjoyed this book. I also have a family member, I also had a family member that had Alzheimer's, so it hit very close to home for me. But I think this one would have been better with some ice cream because of that reason. Since it's such a hard-hitting book, I think the ice cream could have lightened the mood a little bit. But that being said, I do really like this book, and it was really, really interesting to see the perspective of somebody who is losing their memory and like losing their reality and what they believe is truth. And yeah, I just found it to be a very hard-hitting book, but it was also very insightful and a very interesting read. But would have been great with some ice cream. Next up, we have Gingerbread Cookies. There's two options for this one. So if you like your gingerbread cookies soft, you are supposed to name a book that is squishy in the middle, but really good at the beginning and the end. And if you like your gingerbread cookies crunchy or more like a ginger snap, you're supposed to name a book that kind of angered you and made you want to throw it at a wall. For me, I like eating my gingerbread cookies soft, and so for this one, I chose Harry Potter and the Cursed Child because I really liked the beginning and I really liked the end, but I felt like all of the middle of the book was kind of filler and it just didn't need to be there. So it could have been shorter, and that would have been more productive for me if it just had the beginning and the end. But yeah, this is my soft gingerbread book. Next up is Brownies. And there's also two options for this one. And those two options are a middle brownie piece or a corner brownie piece. If you are a corner brownie piece, then you are supposed to name a book that starts off really strong, but then by the end just falls apart and doesn't end well. And if you're a middle brownie piece, you're supposed to name a book that kept you in the feels the entire way through. I would choose a middle brownie piece, and so for this, I chose Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Abertally. This book had me feeling so many emotions the entire way through. I loved this book. I remember just reading it on the couch and like pausing at moments to just be like, oh, I love what's happening. And it was such an adorable storyline, and it made me eat a lot more Oreos. The movie adaptation was actually really well done, and I enjoyed it as well. And I just think you should pick up this book. It's a great LGBTQ plus recommendation, and you will not be disappointed, I don't think. Next up is Birthday Cake. And this is to name a book series or author that just keeps coming out with books every year. And I took a tip from Marcus for this one. He knows that Jay Kristoff put out 3 books last year and 2 this year, so he is just on a roll with everything that he's writing. Yeah, so that's why I chose Jay Kristoff for the Birthday Cake. And the last one is Carrot Cake. This is to name a book that you thought would be healthy for you, but ended up being unhealthy due to the content, or it put you in a reading slump. For this one, I chose, and I'm sorry, Jessie the reader, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I just found this book pretty boring. I'm sorry if other people like this book. I still read the whole series, but I just didn't enjoy it that much. I don't know. I think there could have been a lot more done with the series, and it could have been a lot more intense. It's a really cool concept. It might be the author's writing style. I just couldn't get into it. Like, I've had to force myself to finish that series. So, and I think that's just because I'm stubborn and don't like to DNF. But it was hard to get into. I think I gave them all like 3 ratings. I can't remember. But yeah, this book was putting me into a reading slump. It was just hard to get through. And now to tag some people. I'm going to tag Hillary from Melted Books. I'm going to tag Katie from Patronosaurus Reads. And I'm going to tag Nicole from Nicole and Her Books. Don't feel obligated to do it, guys. You don't have to. If you want to, though, that'd be awesome, and I would love to watch your video. I also tag anybody else who feels like this book tag is for them and they're interested in doing it. And that's it for my video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a video. I post videos every Thursday, and until next time, keep on reading.